Welcome to Integrate Online. I am really excited to talk to you about all of the things that are good in terms of Pittsburgh and advertising and marketing and communications and design and everything. My name is RJ Thompson. I am an adjunct faculty member in the IMC program, as well as the manager of digital strategy at the University of Pittsburgh. I'm really looking forward to sharing my time with both Rich Lewis and Dwayne Waite today, as well as taking your questions at the end. So before we get into the finer questions, I want to introduce my colleagues, Rich and Dwayne, but I also have to do a quick shout out to AMA Pittsburgh, the American Marketing Association Pittsburgh chapter. This call today is really focused on professional organizations, and AMA has been the coalescing agent that's been bringing all of the professional chapters together. If you're not familiar with AMA or AMA Pittsburgh, it is the organization for marketers, and we foster a community of thought leaders through a variety of high quality programming, be it educational, networking, skill development, and more. If you'd like to connect with me on LinkedIn, all you got to do is type in my name, and I'm sure that if you review the slides later, you can find my LinkedIn URL there. I'd be more than happy to connect with you and share with you the benefits of membership in AMA, but also AIGA, AdFed, and more. Rich Lewis is the president of AIGA Pittsburgh, and their mission is to use design as an agent for cultural change, as a force for change in a wide variety of areas of interest, be it in the fields of practice or in education. It is the organization for design. And quick note, I got my start in professional associations by being a board member of AIGA. So it's really great to see Rich in charge of this particular group and the great work that they're going to be doing. And Dwayne Waite is, I still believe, the vice president. It seems like he keeps getting promoted every single time I talk to him. Dwayne is the vice president of the American Advertising Federation's Pittsburgh chapter. Not your standard advertising club. They're marketers, creators, analysts, designers. Anyone that works in advertising should be a part of this organization. And this year, they're celebrating 100 years. As an organization, and I'm looking forward to learning more about that as well. So I shared a little bit about myself, but Rich, if you could just give me a quick minute about who you are, what you do, and how you're looking to help AIGA thrive. That'd be great.
Absolutely. Thank you, RJ. So I'm Rich Lewis. I'm the president of AIGA Pittsburgh, newly president within the last few months. And I'm also the branding and creative services director at Eden Park Hospitality Group. We run a full service in-house agency and service about 1,200 projects a year across about 9 team members. But with AIGA, I was very excited about the opportunity to become president of that because my passion is in leadership and building teams. And over the years, AIGA has kind of fallen off a little bit through COVID, as most organizations did, but it presented me the opportunity to help build it back up. And I've been focusing on building our executive board back up and creating membership benefits that you all look for. So
Awesome.
that's me in a nutshell.
I've heard you do that a lot, and that was the best one so far. So
Perfect.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dwayne, if you could tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and your role as VP of AAF.
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. Happy to be here. Dwayne Waite Jr. here, Marketing Director, Games Events of ReedPop. ReedPop is a trade show organization that runs some of the largest game conventions in the world, PAX East, PAX West, PAX Unplugged, and EGX in London. Now, what brings me here is that I am the chapter VP for AAF Pittsburgh, and along with that, co-chair of the Pittsburgh Advertising Week, and also the organization's co-programming chair. And so basically deal with programming, building events that bring value, professional development, industry nights, just a way to bring our creative and professional networks together and to whole different, events or activities that provide value to the membership.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And for students in the audience, I wanted to make you aware of a program that our three organizations are supporting, and that is called AdFlux. So during Pittsburgh Advertising Week, which is the week of October 16th, AIGA and AMA have teamed up to offer an intercollegiate student advertising competition. You can learn more about this by going to amapittsburgh.com/adflux. And while we're talking about all the various things related to networking creativity in Pittsburgh, I want you to be thinking about entering your work into this competition because it's free. You can submit as much as you want. There are cash awards. There are potential scholarships involved. And two of the judges are with you today in Dwayne and Rich. All of the judges in the competition are active working marketing, design, and comms professionals in Pittsburgh. So this is a really great opportunity to learn about them and maybe what their sensibilities are towards what good work looks like. The exhibition opening for this competition will be October 20th, Friday at 6 p.m. At the Community College of Allegheny County's Allegheny campus. Unfortunately, winners will not be announced in advance. So if you do submit, I would be more than happy to see you show up to the event. And ultimately, all three of our organizations are about helping our members create meaningful and memorable professional outcomes, of which AdFlux is hopefully the first collaboration between our three organizations that can really make a huge difference. So please keep that in mind as we're discussing, and then we can clarify more on this towards the end of the call during our Q&A session. So with that in mind, I have some questions for Rich and Dwayne. All right, and I'll chime in as well. So Pittsburgh has a legacy of being known as a great place to start a career. What prompted both of you to start yours here, and why should others follow your lead? Dwayne, we'll start with you.
Sure. Yeah. So I think it is the foundation of education and the bridge that goes into professional development that Pittsburgh has really done a good job in the past couple decades of building, from the schools here to the colleges and universities, being able to interact with organizations while you're studying, whether you're undergrad or graduate, to get a taste of the industry. I thought was a really cool thing that Pittsburgh has been doing. And being one of those folks, one of the boomerangers, right? I left Pittsburgh for a little bit and then I came back, realizing how great Pittsburgh is. I really see the differences of how tight knit the professional community can be and is in many aspects with the educational community here.
You know, one thing I always say is like Pittsburgh is like the 2 degrees of separation city. Everyone knows each other, and especially in the advertising, marcom, design communities, it's especially true. You are I mean, even the people you work with that may not be a practicing creative, they also know the same people. So it's an incredible thing, especially on that networking point of view, and finding jobs and opportunities.
Oh, absolutely.
So Rich, what are your thoughts on starting your career here and why others should follow your lead?
Yeah, it's such an interesting question that I never thought about, but as I think about it, I realized that I never really picked Pittsburgh to start my career in. Coming out of school, I'm doing what everybody's doing. I'm taking the job that I can get, especially in such at the time, a highly concentrated group. There were more designers than there were jobs available. So I'm taking what it is. And I happened to get placed at Heinz. And then I started realizing that every job after that was offered to me word of mouth. I never applied for anything, and it was all based off of my network. And through my travels, I've worked at Fortune 500s, I've worked at $1 million companies, and I've worked at small mom and pop shops all the way down to nonprofits. And that experience to me is very hard to come by in other places, right? If you go to New York, you're working for big agencies only. It's hard to come by those small mom and pop shops still that can provide a value to your career. And it was all because of network, and it continues to be because of network. And each of those jobs, I've learned something special that is added to something. My career path was very unconventional, where I was in creative, I did production work, I was cutting out ketchup labels with an X-Acto blade to start. And then I took a hiatus and went on the UX side and ran web teams, and then came full circle back to creative. And that path has given me an experience unlike any other. And I think Pittsburgh is truly one of the few cities that you can get something like that in.
I completely agree, and I'm having trauma flashbacks to cutting out those ketchup labels. So the root of my question, folks, was really grounded in my own professional experience, because the second job I had in my career, I actually replaced Rich at Heinz. And so I got to learn from him for like a period of a week or so. And then he went off and had a wonderfully successful career to this day. And, and that trauma of cutting out the ketchup labels, I'll always, I actually taught that once in a class, like, we're going to print out these labels and we're going to practice cutting them out, because that helps develop your fine motor skills, especially if you're on the design side. But anyway, I won't let you folks live through that particular trauma. But you both said it extremely well, like the degrees of separation, being able to find jobs, you're able to just get that through word of mouth. And that provides for so many opportunities. So with that in mind, I know AIGA has been instructive in helping me start my career. In fact, I got the job at Heinz through AIGA. And so I always have a fondness and a soft spot for AIGA. But tell me about how groups like AIGA, AdFed support. We know they support networking, AMA too. That's really what they do. But how do they support creative career development? What are your experiences there? How do they foster creativity?
So I'll take that. So I have been on both of these board, or two of these three boards as well. I spent a significant time on AdFed, where I met a ton of people, and everybody on these boards is extremely passionate. They're passionate about giving back to the community. So you come in as a green individual, and they pounce on you and invest in you and want to hear your interests and help you to grow and present you opportunities that you're not going to find on your own, because we're all stronger together. And really, to me, that's what it was all about: working with people in varying degrees, different professions, with different perspectives. And you get diversity that you're not getting in your 9-to-5, right? Your 9-to-5 supports your day job, but then you truly get to do what you're passionate about when you're involved in these particular boards.
Yeah, I'd second that. Along with some of the opportunities presented, talking about working with young or new professionals. There's services, or there's an activity called the pitch, where agency members can bring in students from the different universities for a day, and they compete, right? And then you can move from that to the AAF Pittsburgh section that we call Ad 2, right? It's for young professionals under the age of 32, or if you have 5 years or less of industry experience, where you can, kind of like what Rich said, that we're all stronger together. So, having a group of young professionals being able to ask questions of each other or what they're doing, and then going to the wider group of the board and the different members that have maybe some longer experience, of be able to ask those type of mentorship activities. And then you can, as Rich said, you're passionate, you meet other passionate people, and then you learn more about AIGA and you learn more about AMA, and you get a chance to connect with those groups or those passionate people to figure out or to just be exposed to other things that you might not get from other organizations.
I'm so glad you mentioned the pitch, because I have students that rave about that program. And not only do they do it 1 year, they want to do it again and again. Like, they would do it all 4 years of school or all 2 years of grad school if they could. And they get jobs out of it. That program is really a testing ground for agencies to scout high quality talent.
To touch on that real life scenario, two people who participated in the pitch this past year got hired by Tonic, the in-house agency at Highmark. So it's true. The folks at Tonic were impressed. They reached out to those students to apply, and the internships turned into full jobs, which is super cool.
It's amazing. One thing that I wanted to touch on with my particular experience in these organizations is the willingness for any level of professional in these groups to offer opportunities for mentorship. And a lot of folks, especially like the three of us, we actively are searching for mentees. We want to help people develop themselves creatively. And the first part of that is you have to opt in. So the person that needs that kind of help, they have to self-select into that experience. Like, we're not just going to go out and say like, hey, need a mentor today? No, we don't do that. But I've had a mentor, I think, through every single one of our organizations, and I've developed really great relationships with them that have led to career developments, career opportunities, even ones such as this, and have led to the opportunities to explore creative ideas. And AIGA in the past has been, in my past at least, has been really good about fostering creative conversation. In fact, last night I mentioned an event called Ho Ho No Logo. I don't know if anyone remembers that. It's at Christmas time, and the whole point of it is to purposely make awful looking logos. And you go to a bar, you have some drinks, you look at this terrible work, and you have conversations about it. And it's like a living, breathing exhibition. But through that, you're able to understand how some people think, and if their creative thinking or creative process is compatible with yours, then you're going to sort of bring them into your circle and start to share work with them that you may not share with your boss or your clients. So it gives you some safety zone to be, sensitive and vulnerable to improve the work. And that was a transformative experience for me. In fact, it's what led me to teaching. So moving on from that, I want to understand how creativity plays a role in the intersection of marketing, design, and communications within your organization. Rich, what do you think?
So in Eden Park Hospitality Group, I always tell my team that we're the hub for collaboration and communication, and we have a bit different of a position. So we don't necessarily call ourselves the creative team, we're the branding team. So that gives us a little bit more of a strategic position at the table. So, oftentimes creatives fall under marketing, I find in organizations, we fall peer to them. Where we have a perfect balance with each other. So while you have the marketers driving people in the door, creating great promotions, you have the branding side over here, considering how that's going to make the audience feel and making sure every touch point along a consumer's journey is taken into the same consideration with that opportunity to surprise and delight. So we really take the history and make sure that it's represented well within the hospitality group, through all of those individual moments, and continue to grow it to be an evergreen brand strategy and move forward as the world continues to grow and as the business continues to grow.
Awesome. Dwayne.
Yeah, I think for us, it's exciting, right? We're working with live events and we're working with gaming and video games and tabletop. So we have a lot of room to be creative. And I think it goes across all aspects for not just your B2C, like getting attendees, but also the B2B, working with exhibitors, working with businesses, and uh, to have creativity span across our messaging, our materials, the design of those materials, the design of booths, the design of different experiences, how to get the message out from wayfinding for getting from one location to another. Creativity is totally intertwined with everything we do, and especially now in a post-pandemic world where, as we all see with events, the in-person events are slowly coming back with an emphasis of slow. And so using our creativity muscles or creative juices to think of ways to get more on top of mind of consumers and attendees to attend the shows, and for businesses to be at those shows is definitely a priority for me.
So out of curiosity, for the both of you, do you are either of you trying to incorporate any creative opportunities, or rather I should say opportunities for people to develop their creative in-house? Like Rich, with your team, you had mentioned this in a previous conversation that we had. You give your team an opportunity to express their creativity in unique ways. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So us being a full service in-house agency and a very lean team, we need to be able to wear multiple hats. So this all starts even at the recruiting process. So as we're having those interviews, the green flag go ahead is, or question and answer is, what do you do in your free time? Generally, I'm looking for something in the creative field. I'm looking for you to be overly passionate about that, because you may come as a designer, but end up being a video editor at some point within your career. And to foster this, us being fully remote, we needed to do some things that reinvented the in-office scenarios. So while we have coffee breaks on Wednesdays where people are free to come and go as they please, to have those water cooler talks where the ideas get crazy, we take that a bit further, and once a month on Fridays we do 20-minute creative challenges that somebody on the team comes with an idea. They have something that they want to work on. It could be for the organization or not. We've done things from developing shoes to dresses to food trucks to this, and everybody on the team, whether you're a production artist, a photographer, a videographer, a designer, anything in between, uses their idea to come up with a solution for that challenge. And then we all present it at the end of the 20 minutes. We laugh, and oftentimes things come to fruition. So what that does is it teaches us to be more nimble and let our wildest ideas free. And I think, as a creative leader and any creative, it's always important to keep the brainstorms going on, to not stop those weird ideas because they seem a little bit too crazy. Foster them, get to the root of them, give an and. Keep building on those ideas. And I think that creative lives through that, right? It lives through the weird ideas and those conversations that aren't supposed to happen, that people should kill, that aren't going to work, that don't fit our brand. I don't believe in any of that. I believe in just putting it all on the table and seeing where it goes.
Yeah, see, I love all of that, and I think uh being able to foster more creativity within a team here is definitely a priority to build. So I joined this company joined ReedPop as its marketing director in January. So I haven't been through a full event cycle yet. And however, there are some cases that, Rich mentioned that kind of needs to change around in terms of fostering creativity, being more brave with our messaging, being able to let folks, develop their voice and, to further adapt the brand voices of the events of what we used to run. Rebranding is something I'm really interested in too. So the do that in house is something I'm looking into. So I'm just on the beginning of that path of for the team here.
And RJ, I'd be remiss not to say to treat each individual with their own needs, right? There's no one style of leadership that should be applied to everybody. And I think that that's one of the most important things that we do at Eden Park Hospitality Group is we really foster your individual needs and your goals.
So, one thing I wanted to mention in the context of creativity and these professional associations and networking is that when the three of us were really coming up, we put a lot of focus on who are the people to know. Like everyone knows who Larkin Warner is. Who are the agency heads? Who are the creative directors? And now the three of us, we're at that level that we once sought to be. And it helps that there are events where these design leaders in Pittsburgh, these marketing leaders, communications leaders, they make themselves available, and you get to know who they are. And one of the things that I'm trying to cultivate with my students is that you have a wide variety of skills that help develop your own personal brand and your reputation. Some of those skills, many of them can be taught. Some of them can be developed, but it seems like creativity is something that is just an innate natural talent. How do you feel about that? Do you think that's true? And if it's not, are you able to teach creativity? How do you help the members of your team that you may not consider to be as creative to be more creative?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think one of the books that I've been enjoying reading and quoting. I know RJ, you've seen this. Let me pull this sucker out. Is Alchemy
Oh,
by
yes.
Rory Sutherland, and he talks about just being insatiably curious, right?
Mhm.
And so I think that is uh, while it's not necessarily creative per chance, but it allows you to look at problems and think about really interesting or non-intuitive solutions. And so I think that is something that you can, I mean, it's critical thinking, right? Critical thinking and problem solving. And whenever you can, go out of the box or out of your comfort zone, similar to what Rich was saying, like there's no bad idea. Like let's put everything on the table here. There might be something there. And so I think that is a trait that I would kind of equate with creativity.
Sure. I think it goes back to childhood, right? Every child is curious, and curiosity is the bridge to creativity. And everybody's innately born with curiosity. So if you can be curious, you can be creative. You just have to find your output, and you have to encourage those that are often naysayers. I'm not creative. I'm not this, to think that putting something on paper isn't creativity. It's an idea starter. It's building that bridge, and it's, bridging the bridge. So
Yeah, we take a very limited and limiting view of our own personal creativity, and of course, as you get older, it's sort of suppressed. But Dwayne, you said it best: being perpetually curious. And I would encourage you all to think about that particular phrase as it applies to your own professional brand, your own professional reputation. I would love to hire someone that is perpetually curious, because they're just going to ask questions all the time, and through doing so, improve the quality of either the deliverables, the product, the service, the outcomes. of whatever I'm making. And with my students, and even the team I manage at Pitt, I have to give them opportunities to express that creativity in sort of a fear-free zone. And what they discover coming out of that session is like, wow, I never thought I would be able to do something like that. Or this opened up a whole new world of, I never thought I could do really good messaging with Facebook ads. Okay, great. You can explore that. And often what I say is, if you're always zigging, try zagging. And it's when you purposely choose to do something different within that perpetual curiosity that you're going to start to develop, your synapses are going to start firing. You're going to start having new ideas, discovering new ways of doing things. So, whenever I start a project, I do the opposite of what I would usually do, which is my pattern. You may have a creative process, but if it's built into a structured pattern, you may not be getting any new ideas out of it. So I'm curious for the both of you, what is your creative problem solving process? And is that something you can define?
Yeah, you touched on it briefly, RJ, and I always use this phrase, none of us are better than all of us. And it's really about collaboration. And to me, bringing as many people to the table for those thoughts and that build is my creative process. Start with an idea, define the problem, and let everybody run wild with it.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, no, sorry, Dwayne.
No, yeah, I think, yeah, it's just one of those things of writing out the problem, like, what's the problem? What am I trying to solve, right? And just trying to ask as many questions as possible until I get a couple really, really good questions. And then, I try to, dive in. And yeah, just like what Rich said, just let the creativity or let the imagination run wild, coming out with scenarios, different case studies. And then, I share with people, it's like, hear me out. This is going to be some weird stuff, right? And so definitely sharing. It always goes back to that, David Ogilvy, if you're not sharing your ideas, then, what are you doing, right? Ideas grow with more minds than just one.
Here, here. Rich, I have a Friday prompt for you. You have to start with a person wearing a shark suit that is like crawling on the ground, hiding in the bushes near a park with a path that people are walking down. So that's the premise. You start with that, and then you eventually have to get to a new product on the menu for the restaurants.
Okay. All right.
I don't know if you can
star.
extrapolate that far, but like that's
Yeah.
a good example of like being really far out and silly and getting to like a real business decision. Sometimes the road to brilliance is often paved with absurdity.
Absolutely.
The premise of our entire conversation thus far has been utilize your creative talents to cultivate an identity that is supported by high quality, endless curiosity, right? And try to make that stick to your personal brand as much as possible, especially when you're interacting in all of these different networks where, frankly, we're in the creative professions. They are competitive. Rich, you and I have competed for work before. Dwayne, you and I probably have or will at some point. And that happens. So how do you rise above your competition in these competitive fields? And that's sort of the major thing I want a lot of you to take away, is that you're entering into the creative professions. It's competitive. Pittsburgh, for all of its benefits, especially in these communities, is still competitive. So there was a time when Rich and I were in AIGA, I'd look at his portfolio and be like, okay, I see what he's doing here. I'm going to try to do it better So that way, if we go up against each other for a job, I'm going to come out on top. This stuff happens. So keeping that in mind, my sort of last question for the both of you is, creativity is highly sought after within from the employer perspective. Okay, I won't say it's the most sought after, but I think it's without a doubt top 3. Okay, I can teach anyone how to use the software, but I can't necessarily teach you how to think, right? So when you're hiring candidates for marketing or design or communications, how, how does their work stand out? For those candidates, the top ones, how does their work stand out? And, for those that are in the audience that are either students or recently graduated, how can they make their work stand out when you're reviewing their resumes and portfolios?
Sure. That's an easy question for me, so I'll take that, Dwayne, if you don't mind. It's really about your strategic thought behind it. So many portfolios that I've reviewed, people have been like, I'm not sure why I did that, or the professor told me to do that. But the people that I hire always have a reason behind it. And you can look through, you can go to a school and you can see the work that has been curated by the professor through every portfolio. I find that one that has something a little bit different and ask them why. And if they explain to me why, I know that they're the right person, because it continues to build that curiosity.
Excellent.
Yeah, just shows, show me that you can think and why you thought it. I mean, that's yeah, Rich nailed it.
Yeah. With the students that I have, especially in the undergraduate schools in business, like if you're in art school, you have a portfolio by default, but in the business programs, you don't necessarily have that. In some cases, I've had seniors that all they have is a resume. They don't have a website, they don't have a portfolio, and they've done a lot of professional work throughout their entire academic career, but they aren't showing it. They aren't telling the story of their curiosity, of their talent. And so I spent a lot of time with them in teaching them how to make those portfolios. So you don't have to be a designer to have that portfolio. But if you're a comms person or marketing or design, you absolutely have to tell a story to sell yourself. And you might need some props to help you along the way. But the simple point on that is, a picture's worth 1,000 words. Sometimes the visuals, regardless of your being a designer or not, can tell the whole story. So I could look at a design that a marketer made that maybe they wrote the copy for, but they didn't design. And I get it. I understand it. I know what went into it. And that could make all the difference in terms of, one-upping your competition.
Yeah. And I think this goes full circle with curiosity and these organizations that we're a part of. And this is for our postgraduates, never stop learning and let your curiosity take you beyond your ideas and go into your skill sets, right? These organizations offer you opportunities that if you're a designer, jump on the comms team to learn what they're doing, jump on the finance team to learn things like that. That sets you apart light years, right? You can have just your toe in the strategy, but if you're a well-rounded individual that is curious within your skill set, you're an immediate hire for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think Rich is totally right. I mean, working, I mean, for example, for the AF Pittsburgh for the programming, I'm working, my co-chair is Nick Buckheit out of Covalent, right? Shoots videos, right? But we're here planning stuff, and not something that he's typically doing on a day-to-day basis. But it just shows that you can work with well-rounded professionals who are leading in their respective industries.
It continues to build on the diversity of your thinking too. When you can, when you're having those brainstorms too, I encourage you to invite the janitorial services to the conversation, right?
Yes.
You're getting different perspectives from different people. And that's what really we're talking about when we talk about, keeping those ideas flowing and bringing new thoughts and new perspectives to the table.
And nothing is better than in my job to just walking the exhibition floor or the exhibit hall and just talking to people. It's like, hey, what do you think about that over there? It's like, oh, I wish they did this. Like, really? Okay, what else? Right? So, like, being in the field is the absolute best.
Yeah, and you know the funny thing is, like, Dwayne, to your point, and Rich, to yours, like, sometimes that janitorial staff, they're going to have like a completely brilliant idea and not even be aware of it. But they test the efficacy of your solutions, and being able to tap into that is really important. So I think that's really wonderful advice. So we wanted to leave time for questions and answers, and I'm hoping that some of you have some questions. If you don't, then the three of us will just keep rambling on for the next 17 minutes or so. So are there any particular questions out there? Yeah, Stephen?
I had a question for Dwayne. You mentioned that you had explored opportunities outside of Pittsburgh. What were those opportunities that you had, just out of curiosity, or where was it?
Yeah, sure. So, man, I've been everywhere. I've done a lot of different things. But my biggest stint was in Charlotte, North Carolina, where I was there for 8 years, and I was mostly in the agency, in the bank and technology sectors, and then switched over to lifestyle and tech, and then I also uh, I was seeing the quality of interns and new professionals, and I thought it's like maybe I can do something to help with that. And so I went into teaching, and so I taught marketing, sports entertainment marketing, marketing management at a high school for 3 years, while I freelanced and wrote for a blog out of Atlanta, and then moved back to Pittsburgh because I wanted to get back into the industry. And before ReedPop, I was at Shell Games for 6 years, a video game design development studio here, and left as its marketing manager.
Awesome, thank you.
Helene has a question here. It says, as a business person, can you suggest a creative way to connect when LinkedIn connections don't materialize? I love this question. Rich, you want this?
Yeah, I mean, networking, right? Show up to these network events, follow the three groups here. We are providing a full, well-rounded experience. We spoke at AIGA, spoke at an Adobe event a few weeks ago where they were presenting AI, and the audience was filled with people of varying backgrounds. And I was able to make connections in ways that I never would have thought of in that group, even in my own self. My network is massive, and I thought I'm going to know everybody here. I did not, because there were people from all different sectors coming to these events. You're not going to find AIGA just has designers, or AMA just has marketers, and AdFed just has everybody, because they're a mix of a little bit of everything. You find just curious people at these things, and that to me, throw LinkedIn out the door. They never materialize, but these in-person options always do. And when you make those connections, reach out to those people constantly, check in, ask them how they're doing, be a personable person. That's always what I look for. I never feel bothered. I like those personal connections with people, and I seek those.
So for my response here, I echo what Rich says. Networking, networking, never stop networking. Even after you're settled in your career, always be networking. You never know what kind of opportunities are going to come out of that. But a real object lesson for me was actually in 2020, when I decided, I really want to position myself as a leader in the higher education marketing space. And there are a number of communities online that you can join and build yourself a reputation there. So for example, I eventually wanted to get to like the chief marketing officer role at a university, right? That's sort of my end goal. And how do I get there? Well, I have to always be asserting thought leadership and putting new ideas out into the space. And then those ideas will stick to me and become a part of my identity. And those people that I may have reached out to on LinkedIn that ignored me, they see what I'm doing in other spaces and they come back around. So I remember one case, like 9 months after I tried to add someone to LinkedIn, they finally approved me and they're like, hey, sorry for ignoring this for so long, but you said some things in this group that were of interest to me. Thought maybe we could talk about it a little bit further. So patience is absolutely a part of the game, and being determined, but also being willing to step outside of yourself and do what you need to do to build the type of career that you want. And sometimes that means going against the grain, you know, not doing or doing something that you're not entirely, at least initially, comfortable with. But when you're able to get out of that comfort zone, that resilience you'll develop over time, and it'll become easier to connect with people. Ultimately, you want them to connect with you. So if you go to them empty-handed, they're going to be less inclined to engage in conversation with you or otherwise. So that's my sort of personal background on that. Dwayne, did you have any thoughts?
No, all that
Nope.
sounds good.
Great. Okay, awesome.
I think
I like
that
being your
pairs well with
spokesman.
I think that pairs well with the networking, though. You know, don't go to a networking just asking how you're doing. Ask them what you're working on. Tell them what you're working on. Get curious at those things too.
Yeah, and Helene, relative to your comment, this is advice that would work anywhere.
Mhm.
Yeah. So Amy Bradley has a question that says, curious if there are strong opportunities and value via these organizations for those who are more mid-career or transitioning into the creative marketing space. Finding it a little difficult to make transition and hoping not to start from scratch given overlap in skill. So I'll start here. All three of us, particularly through our leadership roles in these organizations, we want to support folks like you. We want to support all of our members, but then also all of our peers in the community, whether you're a member of our organization or not. There's no exclusivity there. We want to help you because if we're able to get your talent into our city, into our market, into our companies, that only strengthens the whole of the community. So I think that by virtue of being a member of these organizations and getting your name out there and contributing, volunteering, volunteer your talents to these organizations, you may find you'll have an easier transition. People will be more willing to go to bat for you, help you find other opportunities through their networks, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, just like what Rich said before, of getting jobs that weren't listed, or that you didn't have to apply for. A lot of these, a lot of our organizations like have agencies, organizations, companies that may have unfulfilled roles that they're just trying to use their network to find, right? I can speak firsthand for AF Pittsburgh. There are we have a Slack channel, and people just reach out. It's like, hey, we have this position open. We're not putting it on the website just yet, just putting out feelers. And being a part of these organizations can help you help your name be part of those conversations.
So that actually, Laura, go ahead and unmic.
Yeah, I have one more question if you got time.
Yes, please do. Plenty of time.
I first just wanted to say thanks for Rich and RJ, for you guys for like bringing AIGA Pittsburgh back. I was involved previously, so I'm just excited to see what you do. I know that's not a small lift either, so thank you. My question was, what's your goal or your vision for this sort of like new phase of AIGA Pittsburgh?
Yeah, absolutely. So my goal and vision is over the next, my 2-year stint on this is to really solidify our membership benefits. So first we had to start by building an executive board. I came on as president and crickets. There was nobody on the board. There were a few people that joined the same time that I did, but everybody else was really falling off. They were just exhausted from it. So my goal was to baseline that executive board, which we have done. And then over the next 6 months, develop a content strategy where we can start to provide our members with benefits that matter, but not just benefits that matter to us. We're going to go out and ask employers for the skills that they're looking for and apply it to our 6-month calendar. From there, develop a 12-month calendar, and then I will sunset my presidency to the next. But really, it's to get this organization running in the way that it has in the past, with benefits that provide true ROI instantly.
With AMA Pittsburgh, what we're looking to do is really lean into the 27 plus higher education institutions in the West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio, tri-state area. We want to develop amazing educational programming for all students at those locations. But we don't just serve students, even though that's the primary the audience that is most engaged. We also want to develop really exceptional programming for our professional members, but also, giving them opportunities to connect with new talent. I think for the three of our organizations, we're really focused on building bridges or pipelines of employers to talent and vice versa. So that's what AMA is up to. What's AdFed going on?
Yeah, with AF Pittsburgh, it's really us getting back to basics. Really trying to instill the national mantra of AAF Pittsburgh being, I have to get the initials right first, getting AF Pittsburgh to be the unifying voice of advertising. And so now through April 2024, we're really set on celebrating the 100th anniversary. But then beyond that, it is making a more intentional effort to bring more organizations and brands into the mix. I think that has been lacking in the past couple of years. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why, but just resetting the mission of the chapter and what we're here to do, and to be friendly with all the organizations is something we're going to be emphasizing.
Aaliyah has a two-parter here. Thank you for that question. The first one is, as portfolio reviewers, what would you say is the sweet spot range of art, design, marketing / other projects that you would like to see in a portfolio?
I think in this multi-channel world, try to cover all your channels, right? Digital, print, broadcast, if you're able to. And just keep it slim, right? I only need to see one from each of those channels that you can explain really well. If you have a piece in your portfolio that you're like, you just don't have a mission for it or a strategy for it, pull it out. Because if I ask you on that one and you don't know, I'm going to be a little bit disappointed if the rest of your portfolio has it. So just enough to be able to present your skill set across a multi-channel world.
Yeah, just like what RJ said, tell a story. The portfolio shouldn't be all these, different. Well, they can be different, but if they can tell a story that includes what problem question you're trying to solve, that also puts your skills in a nice narrative, that'd be great.
So I agree with all that. Generally, I tell students to tell a story, but to do so across no more than 12 projects. And usually, and sometimes that's too much. But to Rich's point, if there is a piece in your portfolio that just does not fit the narrative that you're trying to tell, make a second book. If employers really love your work, you want to keep them in that interview as long as possible. Pull out a second book and say, hey, I've got supplemental work if you want to see that too. And then Rich and I will be like, yes, show us more. So don't be afraid to make multiple books, okay? Especially if the interview is going well. So Aaliyah's part 2 says, for an entry-level position, would you rather see a portfolio with a strong focus on one theme, like a logo design, for example, or a wide focus on many themes, logo plus web design plus marketing plans and campaigns, or does it just really depend on the job?
For me, it depends on the job, and the job difference is full-time or freelancer. So I hire a lot of full-time team members. I would rather see the breadth of your offering. But for freelancers, that's those one-off projects. I will hire you for your specialty skill, such as retouching photos, for example.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just remember, you want to show the right amount of breadth and the right amount of depth in your portfolios. So we're out of time, but Rich, Dwayne, I was wondering if folks wanted to reach out to you and engage in conversation, what is the best way for them to connect with you?
Dwayne.
Yeah, for me, I mean, anything. LinkedIn is probably the place where I spend a lot of my time. But if we connect via email, as well, I, obviously are in that every day too. So, yeah, very active on LinkedIn. I respond to everything I can. So, definitely you can hit me up there.
I agree with that.
LinkedIn. Absolutely. Yes. LinkedIn
For
is
connection, for networking
best.
and connections.
Yes. Yeah. So that was great. Thank you both very much. And thank you to all for attending. And hopefully we can continue the conversation with many of you online on LinkedIn or via email. Otherwise, thanks again and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much for hosting this. Really appreciate it.
You're the
Thank you.
best.
This was fun.
Thanks, Dwayne. Thanks, Rich.